Thank you for your patience, Sharon. So I've had some time to talk a little bit more candidly with Ken, and I appreciate the opportunity to do that with you as well. Is there anything that you think it might be helpful for me to know in private that might help our conversation move away from the litigation standpoint and into some problem solving?
Well, I don't know how helpful this will be other than perhaps you might understand a bit more where Zig is coming from and might then be able to help us to see a way forward. I hinted at this when we were all together, and that is Zig is a company that would not and is not interested in being tied exclusively to Shenzhen.
Mm-hmm.
So while we're pleased to negotiate this ability to develop the tablet scanner with them manufacturing it, and that seems to be moving along fine. I am not, on behalf of Zig, we will not and are not interested in closing ourselves off from entering into other arrangements with other companies such as Nokia. So to the extent that they view this contract as tying our hands to do that, that's extremely problematic. And that's why I don't think, even if we were to present them with an offer, with what Nokia put on the table, I don't think that Shenzhen in any way, shape, or form can meet that offer. So I'm not afraid to present it to them. I, however, am quite concerned about the precedent setting that I am required, that Zig is required to present this kind of offer, because that is not the contract that we believe that we signed. It is not the contract that we would have signed, and it's not something that Zig can live with. So if need be, and that's why we're willing to really take this and make it a test case if we need to, because going forward, this is the first of what we anticipate will be many different companies that Zig is going to be entering into relationships with. And we don't want Shenzhen to be standing in the way of us doing that.
When you say a test case, do you mean that from a litigation standpoint, that taking it to court to see whether your position holds up, or do you mean a test case going outside away from their company? I guess I'm not clear what you mean by that.
Yeah, what I mean is I'm not willing, even though, again, I'm not nervous that they would be able to meet this particular one, I'm not willing to just allow it to go forward and then to expect then that every single subsystem that Zig develops and wants to negotiate with another company to manufacture, that Shenzhen has the right of first refusal. So in that respect, we need to stand firm on not creating any expectation on Shenzhen's part that subsystems will be part of what they can bid on in terms of this right of first refusal.
So given that, and what you're saying, what I hear you say is that you're interested in keeping the door open to deal with as many different companies as is profitable for your client. Something that I heard in our joint session, I heard Ken say how much his client appreciates the working relationship and the business relationship, and they look forward to a long and prosperous relationship. And I understand a little bit more now why you didn't necessarily reciprocate those feelings. It seems to me that maybe you're afraid of giving more of an impression that you're in this for the long haul, or that exclusive relationship. But is there anything other than the freedom to shop around that would make you hesitant to work with their company? Is there something that's happened along the way, or something that might help them to understand why you're wanting to keep your options open, so to speak?
Well, I'm going to answer this in two different ways. One is Zig's corporate model and how Zig operates. We will always want to have the ability to negotiate with a variety and to work with a variety of companies. I think it's just bad business practice for us to be so closely linked in that we only have one partner. If something were to happen to that one partner, that would bring us down. So, as a practical matter, it's unrelated to Shenzhen could be the most fabulous partner in existence. We still would want that ability to negotiate and to contract with a variety of companies and not to be solely tied in with one. Having said that, the other piece that I will share with you is the relationship has been not perfect. Yes, the beta testing has gone well. Yes, we expect to be in full production, and it's not a terrible relationship. But what I will say is that it has been Shenzhen's a bit more bureaucratic than we had anticipated, and dealing with some of the issues with being in China, and dealing with some of the issues around the government, etc., have been somewhat challenging to us. So, not entirely unexpected, but it has created some challenges.
Okay. Well, what I heard from Ken is that his client has obviously invested a lot of time and resources in the testing and the soon-to-be full-scale production of these scanners. And so he feels like there might be some value that your client is missing in what they can offer in their proposal. And so I wonder if it would be helpful to bring you both back together and see if you can explore the relative value that you can both bring to the new product and any subsequent developments that you might have. It's just something for you to think about. Before we get back together in a joint session, is there anything else that you think would be helpful for me to relate to Ken, or for me to understand about where your client is at this point?
Well, I am certainly willing to listen to Ken, but I will share with you, we are not in a position, we believe that we have a very, very good deal with Noki, and we are quite pleased. This is a company we have wanted to enter into a relationship with and begin to work with, so that's something that I intend, Zig intends to go forward with. There's really nothing at this table that's going to change that contract from moving forward.
Okay. What do you suppose, I expect that you don't necessarily want to share that decision with Ken today. What do you think would be the response from their perspective if they knew that information?
Well, as I said, on this particular one, I actually don't think that they could make as good an offer in any way comparable to what Noki has put on the table. But I also think that this raises a fundamental lack of meeting of the minds, if you will, when we entered into this original contract. Because it's clear to me that from Zig's perspective, and someone else in the office negotiated this deal, it wasn't me. From Zig's perspective, we never intended subsystems to be considered to be part of this. So it's not that we've changed our mind, that we're trying to wiggle out from something. No, this is in fact what Zig has always, because their company has always held this as our business model, that we would have a variety of partners. So I think it would be important for Shenzhen to understand, however we resolve this particular issue, that going forward, we will be negotiating with others. We never intended to be handcuffed by that right of first refusal. That's really about product, and again, even though it's written more generically, it's not exclusively the tablet scanner, but really it's of that ilk. And in Zig's mind, there isn't anything else that we produce that is of that particular ilk. That's a product like that and not a subsystem.
So do you think it would be helpful today to explore the meaning of that contract, or is it more productive to focus on what to do about this Noki contract? Or is that something that we need to discuss between the two of you? I tried to get at that earlier and got sort of stuck.
Yeah. I think that we probably need to have both conversations.
Okay. Is there anything other than essentially the decision to move forward with Noki, which I assume you want to remain confidential?
That's correct.
Anything else that you've shared that you don't want me to share with Ken when he comes back, or?
I'm actually not sure that there's much that I really want you to share of
Okay.
what we've talked about
All right.
with him. I think in generalities, but I think you can look to me for what it is that I want to share
That's perfectly
and
okay.
when.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, we'll bring him back in and we'll see where we can go from